Chapter 1, Small Beginnings. Mom. I had just walked in the door and my daughter was already shouting at me. My name is Angela. I have a daughter Samantha, who is 9, a son Jonathan, who is 8. My husband Steve was killed in an accident 7 years ago, so for both my children I have been the only parent they have ever really known. We are a close family. The children get on very well for brother and sister, so my friends tell me, and I have tried to provide as much of a normal life as any single parent can provide for 2 children. But it has not always been easy. We are okay financially, Steve's insurance made sure of that, but I just don't feel I am able to spend as much time with the children as I should, especially Jonathan, who is trying to come to grips with being the man of the household, or so I thought. Yes, darling, as I responded to my daughter's obvious annoyance at something. What is the matter? Mom, have you been going through my things again? No, I replied. Why do you ask? Because somebody has, and I found blonde hairs in one of my scrunches. Unlike myself, who is blonde, Samantha has dark brown hair, so a blonde hair in her scrunch definitely meant it belonged to someone else. But who? The only other person in the house with blonde hair like mine was Jonathan. But why would Jonathan be at Samantha's things? What could he be doing? I thought of Jonathan. His blonde hair was thick and golden like mine. I had kept his hair long, just below the collar shoulder length, partly because he did not seem to mind it and partly because I could never seem to find the time to get it cut. In fact, a number of mothers at Jonathan's school had commented on how lucky he was to have such beautiful hair, and a girl would love etc. There was no doubt he looked a lot like me, while Samantha tended to take after her father's side of the family. Where Jonathan and I were fair, she was dark, with long thick dark brown hair that extended down to her shoulder blades. What was I to do? The hairs must be Jonathan's. If I accused him straight out he would deny it, but I could not have him invading his sister's privacy. Then an idea came to me and I called Samantha downstairs. I think Jonathan may have been into your things, I began. Oh Mom, tell him to stay out of my room. Calm down sweetheart, I can't be sure it was him, so you will have to be patient while I find out what he has been doing. Samantha kept protesting, but I eventually calmed her down. Has anything else been disturbed? I inquired. She thought for a moment and commented that she thought her panties drawer had been gone through, but she couldn't be sure. Samantha is a very sweet and pretty girl, but neat she is not. A herd of elephants could have been in Samantha's panties drawer and you would not know. I then got Samantha's assurance that she would keep this to herself until I could confirm one way or another if Jonathan had been in her things. About 2 hours later Jonathan arrived back from his friend's house and we settled down for dinner, TV and bed. Nothing was said about Samantha's things. The next morning was Saturday. A friend picked up Samantha early in the morning for netball and, as Samantha calls it, a girls' gossip party at a friend's house. Jonathan wandered down from his room around 9 o'clock a.m. and it was then that I put my plan into action. Morning darling, did you sleep well? I asked. Oh yeah, came the half-grunt/half sleepy reply. What do you want to do today? I asked in my most cheerful mom voice. Dunno, shrugged Jonathan. What did you have planned? I smiled inwardly to myself at that response and replied, thought you might help me clean out the spare room. He groaned, knowing that he was trapped into helping Mom for at least the morning. We worked hard for the next couple of hours and just before midday managed to clear most of the junk and set it up as a spare guest room. It had been dirty work and I suggested that we both get thoroughly cleaned up. For me that meant a shower and for Jonathan a bath. I also insisted that he wash his hair. In fact, when I finished my shower I gave him a mild treatment shampoo and conditioner. He seemed to enjoy the pampering, so I also insisted that when he finished his bath I would do his hair for him. Jonathan was okay with that. It was nothing new. I often brushed his hair for school, but this time it would get more care and attention than usual. Chapter 2, Jonathan's first ponytail. In here darling, I called from my bedroom. Jonathan entered. He had on a pair of light blue shorts and a white t-shirt. Sit at the vanity, I instructed in a very mummy-like way. Jonathan obliged and placed himself on the stool in front of the vanity. I picked up a hairbrush and hairdryer. What's that for, Mom? Said Jonathan, pointing to the hairdryer. Tease a hairdryer for drying your hair. I have a lot to do today and this will be much quicker, I said in a very matter-of-fact way. Okay, he added, as I settled down to style my son's hair. I brushed his hair this way and that, using the hairdryer to give it shape and body. As it was long, I styled it under at the back and even managed to give him a slight fringe, although it wasn't really shaped properly for that. By the time I had finished, his hair shone with body and life that was not normally present. I turned the hairdryer off and proceeded to keep brushing. Jonathan stammered out an air, "Thanks, Mum," and made a move to get down. "Not so fast," I quickly instructed, "we have not finished yet." I then proceeded to brush his hair towards the back of his head, collecting it high near the crown. I had intended to collect it down near the base of the neck in a more masculine ponytail, but for some reason this more feminine style seemed appropriate. "Mum, what are you doing?" I stopped and reached into my pocket where I pulled out the offending scrunchie. Jonathan went bright red, his guilt apparent across his face. I pressed my advantage. "Why did you do it?" "I don't know. My hair was long, I just wanted it out of my eyes." "I'm sorry, Mum, I didn't mean to do anything wrong." "Well, you did. Samantha is very upset. It is her room, Jonathan. You must respect this and stay out of it and her things. We have talked about it before." "I really am sorry." His head was down, tears started to form in his eyes. I softened. "I know you didn't mean any harm, but that's not the point. It was wrong and you need to be made aware of that. As punishment, you will wear the scrunchie till you go to bed tonight and apologize to Samantha." "But, Mum, what if someone sees me?" he said, looking at me directly. "They will think I am a sissy." "Don't be silly," I said. "Lots of men wear ponytails, look at all those wrestlers on TV, although none of them use scrunchies," I thought to myself quietly. "Do you think anyone calls them sissy?" That got him. He sat quietly, then added, "As long as no one else but you or Samantha see me, I guess it is all right." "Okay, sit quietly while I finish up." I had the hair already in a bunch. I brushed few stray hairs into place. I then took the scrunched and wrapped it around the hair, securing it firmly in place. I then reached into my pocket and pulled out 3 silver hair slides. I inserted one on each side, just behind the ears and one below the ponytail, taming the hair that could not be collected by the scrunches. I then grabbed the ponytail and brushed it out, giving it a slight curl under, and brushed out a couple of stray bangs. "All finished," I said. Jonathan just sat there quietly, looking at his reflection. He saw me looking and again blushed, shaking his head. The ponytail responded by bouncing from side to side. I smiled, then quickly added, "It looks fine, Jonathan. Now off to your room, I have things I need to do." "Okay, Mum," he responded rather quietly. He then got up from the vanity and made his way to the door, the ponytail bobbed behind him. He really did have hair any little girl would love, and he looked so cute. What with the right dress and... What was I thinking? This was punishment, nothing more, and I quickly pushed these thoughts from my mind. Later that day I was taking some towels upstairs when I heard humming coming from the bathroom. This was unusually, as Jonathan never hums. In fact, music of any form has not been one of his interests. Curiosity got the better of me and I quietly made my way to the bathroom door, not wanting to disturb Jonathan's play. As I peered through the crack between the door and the wall, I was somewhat surprised at what I saw. Jonathan was parading up and down the bathroom with a towel wrapped around his waist. As he walked, he exaggerated the swing of his hips and kept glancing at himself in the bathroom mirror. Suddenly, he stopped and blew himself a kiss. I had to stop myself from responding to that gesture and settled for a quiet smile. He stayed in front of the mirror, turning his head and body this way and that. At one point, he took his ponytail and wrapped it up around on the top of his head. He then fluttered his eyelashes at the mirror and blew himself another kiss. He looked so cute. Next minute he was again strutting down the catwalk, glancing at his performance in the mirror. Time for me to depart. I quietly backtracked to the stairs, turned and noisily made my way down the corridor towards the bedrooms. Next instant Jonathan emerged, somewhat flushed, from the bathroom, minus the towel. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" I questioned. "Yeah, fine, Mum, thanks." You look a little flushed. No. Just got to go, he quickly added and ran off down towards his bedroom. Later that day Samantha arrived home from her friends. I told her what had happened. She was furious, but I managed to calm her down and told her that I had appropriately punished Jonathan. When I told her what I had done, she stopped complaining and ran off to find Jonathan. Don't tease him, I called after her, but I need not have bothered. She was very nice to Jonathan all evening. And I mean very nice. And when 9-year-old girls are very nice, you know there is something else going on. Later that night as I tucked her into bed she asked, "Are you going to do Jonathan's hair again tomorrow?" I was unprepared for that. Probably not, this was punishment. I doubt whether he will want me to do it again like that. He did look cute though, Samantha added, he sure would have made a pretty girl. I just smile. Good night, Samantha. Good night, Mum. I then went to Jonathan's room. Okay, time to remove the scrunches. About time, said Jonathan. He turned while I unwrapped the scrunches and removed the slides. I then brushed out his hair. There was slight kink where the scrunches had been, but I knew that would be gone tomorrow. That night while I lay in bed I reflected on the events of the day. It had been a strange day. It felt different. The scene in the bathroom played on my mind. I think too much, I absently said to myself. Still he did look very cute, and with that thought I drifted off to sleep. Chapter 3, Sky Fairy. Sunday morning I awoke around 8:00 a.m. and went downstairs to prepare breakfast. As I passed the kids' playroom I noticed Jonathan sitting on the lounge idle winding his hair around one of his fingers. Morning, sweetheart. Where's Samantha? Dunno. Probably still asleep if I know her. I just smiled and made my way to the kitchen. About 15 minutes later I gave both the children a yell, breakfast. Almost immediately Jonathan wandered in, but Samantha was nowhere to be seen. He sat at the table and began eating his cereal. After about 5 minutes I noticed that he really seemed to want to say something to me. What is it, dear? I asked. Mom, I was just wondering if, would you mind? Would you like me to keep your hair out of your eyes again today? I quickly jumped in. Yeah, that would be great, he responded rather sheepishly. Of course, dear. After breakfast why don't you get dressed, and come to my room and I will do your hair. Thanks, Mom, he said without looking up from his cereal. I just smiled and tried to be casual about it, but for some reason I found the idea of once again doing my son's hair quite appealing. Just then Samantha entered the kitchen and sat down to commence breakfast. Jonathan went bright red, got up and left the table. What's up with him? Said Samantha. Nothing really, he just asked me to put his hair back again. Oh, can I help? Asked Samantha. A little too keenly for my liking. Not this time, Sam. I think he is already a little embarrassed about it as it is, and all he really wants to do is keep the hair out of his eyes. Having you help would only make him more uncomfortable. Well, if he is so embarrassed, why doesn't he ask to get it cut? That would solve all the problems. Yes, it would, I thought to myself, but neither he nor I had raised it as an option. I guess he likes it longer and so do I, so for the moment at least putting it back is what he wants and needs, so please don't say anything to him. Samantha didn't respond to that, she just stared ahead as if contemplating something. What was she plotting? Just behave, Samantha, I added. Who, me? She said with a very innocent little girl look that I did not believe for 1 minute. Yes, you, I added. I left Samantha to herself and went upstairs to do Jonathan's hair. I found him sitting at my vanity patiently waiting for whatever I decided to do. Okay, I said, let's get started. More to myself than Jonathan. I picked up the brush and began to brush through his hair. It really was hair that any girl would love to have. As I began, Jonathan began to visibly relax and seemed to quite enjoy the attention I was his hair. His face took on a faraway look as he stared intently into the mirror. After about 5 minutes of brushing I stopped and began to collect his hair, once again, in a more feminine arrangement near the crown at the top of his head. This time, however, I let the lower half of the hair fall to his neck, while I first brushed then secured the remainder of the hair with a large hair clip barrette. The barrette was off-white with a tiny pink and red flower pattern. I then used 2 small hair clips with tiny flowers on them, currently very popular with girls of all ages, to secure the stray hairs around his ears. This technique took the hair away from his face and out of his eyes, while at the same time enabling his beautiful golden hair to fall gently down onto his shoulders. "Mom, what are you doing?" questioned Jonathan. "Doing what you asked, sweetheart, getting the hair out of your eyes," I replied casually. "But, Mom, it looks a little girly, what with the flowers on the slides and—" "Don't be silly, Jonathan," I quickly interrupted. "It's only for around the house and only Samantha and I will see it. Besides, it seemed the easiest thing to do," I added as quick afterthought. "Are you sure, Mom?" he asked, half hesitant, half hopeful. "Yes. I am sure," I responded quite firmly and in a tone that indicated the end of discussion. "Now go and finish tidying up your room while I get ready to go out. Now I have to go over to your Aunt Catherine's to discuss the arrangements for her upcoming wedding." Jonathan just sighed, got off the stool and left the room. For the second time in 2 days I watched my son leave the room looking, at least from the shoulders up, like a cute little girl. I then began to get ready. I thought of Catherine, only a week to the wedding and so much to do. Catherine and I had been close friends since college. She had been a great support when Steve died and was now getting married to a wonderful and very wealthy man. She only lived a few blocks away and I was due over at her house in about 1 hour. I was matron of honor at her wedding while Samantha was one of 2 flower girls, the other being her fiancé's niece. Samantha was very excited about the wedding and so was I. The idea of a mother-daughter double act in the wedding party was wonderful. Catherine had decided against a page boy, which disappointed Jonathan, but there was not much I could do about that. As I was about to leave, I heard raised voices coming from the children's playroom. Pretty boy, I could hear Samantha chant. She had discovered Jonathan's latest hairstyle. I quickly went to the playroom door. "Samantha, stop that," I demanded. "Apologize to your brother at once." "Sorry, John. I was only having a bit of fun. Would you like to come up to my room and listen to my latest CD?" asked Samantha. Jonathan immediately brightened. He adored his older sister and after yesterday an invite to her room was a real privilege. "That would be great," he responded, as both of them made a dash for the stairs. "Hold on, Samantha, I need to talk to you." "Jonathan, you go ahead, your sister will be up in a minute, and don't touch anything." I turned to Samantha and added, "I will be gone for about 2 hours. Lock all the doors. The number is by the phone and be nice to your little brother." "I will," she responded, especially seeing how pretty he looks and all. I couldn't help but smile at that comment. He really did look pretty. "Okay," I added, "see you in 2 hours. Bye guys," I yell as I shut the front door behind me. 2 hours later I was heading back when a spring storm hit. By the time I got to the house it was pouring. As I approached the house I could hear the stereo up full blast, probably with Samantha's latest CD. I knew ringing the bell would therefore be unlikely to get any response, so I quickly dug into my purse for my key. As I entered the warmth of the house I noticed how dark and noisy it was. I figured the children would be where the noise was, so I followed it to the playroom. As I approached I heard the soprano voices of 2 children singing loudly and out of tune, interspersed with high-pitched giggles. As I got closer I noticed the flickering light of the TV and 2 shadows dancing on the wall. Then I saw them. Samantha had on Jonathan's pirate outfit, complete with sword, patch over one eye and toy parrot on the shoulder. She looked cute, but it was Jonathan that really made me stop and look. He looked adorable. He had on Samantha's fairy outfit. It was a beautiful costume sent to us by the children's grandmother. It was a sky fairy outfit, whatever that is. The dress was made of a soft crystal blue and green fabric with a matching blue/green bodice. Around his neck he had a sliver necklace with matching bangles on his wrists. His legs and feet were bare, but I could see glimpses of Samantha's light blue panties under the very full but short skirt that finished about 4 inches above his knees. On his back was a matching set of fairy wings. His fingernails and toes nails had glitter on them, as did his eyelids and his cheeks. His lips had just the slightest touch of pale pink lipstick, Samantha's first makeup kit. His hair was still pulled back, but the barrette was gone, replaced with a thin silver headband that sparkled in the faint light. Behind the headband Samantha, I guess, had placed 4 number 5 small hair clips with butterflies on them, a present from a girlfriend for her 9th birthday. Behind the hairband, the hair was tied in a small bunch with some thin light green and blue ribbon. The hair had also been brushed so that it curled up, not in, at the end. Samantha had really done a wonderful job, and now dancing around in front of me was one of the cutest little girls I had ever seen. The only thing unusual about it was that that little girl was my son. Chapter 4. In sickness and in health, the girls kept dancing, oblivious to my observation. They were now both on the couch, wiggling their bottoms and shaking their heads to the music, alternatively singing and now shrieking as the song neared its climax. Finally the music ended and they both collapsed on the couch in mock exhaustion. Instinctively I began to clap. "Well done, girls," I added without even thinking. They both stopped and looked in my direction. Gasped Jonathan with a look of both surprise and horror on his face. "Hi, Mum," chirped Samantha cheerfully, as if having her brother lying on the couch next to her in her fairy costume with made-up hair and face was the most natural thing in the world. "Mum, we're just," stammered Jonathan. Then he jumped up off the couch and ran out the room. His face bright red and tears were beginning to form in his eyes. "Well?" I asked Samantha with a raised eyebrow and a tone that indicated I wanted some sort of plausible explanation. "We were just playing," said Samantha without batting an eyelid. I said nothing. "Well, he asked if he could dress up in my fairy costume." "He asked?" "Kind of. Well, I asked if I could borrow his pirate outfit and then suggested he might also want to dress up and air well." "I see," I said, trying not to smile. "Well, I had better go and see if our little fairy is okay." I left Samantha with her best innocent little girl look and climbed the stairs in search of Jonathan. I found him trying desperately, but with little success, to undo the fairy costume. Unfortunately for him, the costume had high buttons at the back and could only be done up or undone with someone else's help. He looked like an adorable but very sad little girl. Tears of frustration and embarrassment streaked his makeup, and when he saw me he began to cry again. I sat on the bed next to him. "Jonathan, calm down, it's okay." "I'm not angry." Samantha explained that she convinced you to put the costume on. "It's all right to dress up. Lots of boys do it. Why, a friend of mine's little boy went as a princess to the last Halloween party and as an Indian maid the year before that." "He did?" sobbed my little fairy, as he slowly began to recover his composure. "Sure, sweetheart, lots of little boys like to play dress up in their mother's clothes and pretend. It's all part of growing up," I quickly added, hoping that my more casual attitude would mitigate some of the embarrassment he felt at being caught in a dress by his mother. That last statement seemed to do the trick, and he turned and gave me a hug. As we sat there on the bed, I gave him a gentle squeeze and stroked his soft golden hair. I soon felt his body relax. He then gave me one final squeeze, gently removed his arms from my waist, and looked at me with his beautiful, red-eyed face. "I love you, Mummy. I love you too, sweetheart. Would you like me to help you get changed?" "Yes, please. I can't reach the buttons." "That's okay, I often have the same problem," I added. "Mummy?" "Yes, Jonathan. I don't feel well." That was not surprising. When Jonathan gets upset, he often becomes physically sick. "Why don't you get changed into your pajamas and get into bed? It is already around 4 p.m. and the early night will do you good." I helped him out of the costume and into his pajamas. He then washed his face and hands, while I brushed out his hair, deciding to keep the up curl where the hair met his shoulder. I then hung the fairy costume up in his closet. Samantha didn't wear it anymore, and I decided Jonathan's closet was as good a place as any to store it. Once he was settled, I went back downstairs. Samantha was hovering and looking, may I dare say it, a little guilty. "Is he okay?" "Yes, dear, just a little upset and embarrassed." "I'm sorry, Mum, but it just seemed like a good idea at the time, and he made a very pretty fairy, didn't he? He certainly did, sweetheart, he certainly did, I replied more to myself than Samantha. Later I made dinner. Jonathan wasn't really hungry. Then as Samantha and I sat and watched the news, more war, famine somewhere in Africa, and a particularly nasty flu virus that had waited till late winter early spring to hit, I again reflected on the events of the day. I kept telling myself that he was only playing, it was just part of growing up. But there was another part of me that wasn't so sure and liked my son looking like a girl. Later that night Jonathan, somewhat predictable, threw up. I changed him in his bed and he went back to sleep. Unpredictably around 6 o'clock a.m. he threw up again. This time he had soiled himself and his pajamas, so I put him in the bath while I again changed his bedclothes. I then went to get another pair of pajamas. None left. Between the wet weather, Jonathan being sick and the wedding preparations, he had no clean pajamas. I thought for a moment, then went to Samantha's room. Reaching into her drawers I pulled out a pair of her pajamas. They were pale blue with little pale pink pigs on them. They had pale pink trim around the sleeves, legs, neck and waist, both the top and bottom. They were obviously girls' pajamas, but they were pajamas, Samantha's only pair. She much preferred the femininity and freedom of her baby dolls, nighties and nightgowns. I then entered the bathroom and put the pajamas on the chair. I leaned over and again washed Jonathan's hair with shampoo and conditioner. When you get out you can put on those, I said, pointing to Samantha's pajamas. But they're Samantha's, exclaimed Jonathan. Sorry Jonathan, but that is all there is, and they are pajamas. If you don't like them I can get one of her nighties. The thread of the nightie seemed to work, and in 5 minutes was sitting up in bed with Samantha's pajamas on and his hair wrapped in a towel. How are you feeling, darling? I inquired. Okay, thanks, Mum. Jonathan, I can't be washing you like this every time you are sick, so I am going to have to tie your hair back in case you throw up again, at least that way it won't get dirty again. He looked a little unsure, but said nothing. Again I blow-dried the hair till it was completely dry, making sure I reinforced the slight upwards curl at the back. I then parted the hair down the middle and brushed it into 2 small bunches just above the top of the ears. I then tied it off with 2 pink elastics I had borrowed from Samantha. If you are going to keep your hair longer we will need to get your own hair accessories, you can't keep borrowing from me and Samantha's, I added. Jonathan just nodded. When I had finished he looked once again like a little girl. He smiled weakly and I smiled back, that looks fine dear, and if you're sick again at least we won't have to wash your hair. A friend picked Samantha up for school while I stayed at home to look after Jonathan. As the day progressed he seemed to improve. We played games and read stories. We talked and I really felt close to him. He looked cute and I found myself at times thinking of him more as a daughter rather than a son. That afternoon when Samantha arrived home she went up to play with Jonathan. Half an hour later I was passing the room when I heard Samantha's voice. Brush the hair back towards the top of the head and secure it with a hair clip. I looked between the crack between the door and the wall. Samantha was sitting on the bed while Jonathan brushed her hair to the back of the head and secured it with a barrette. All the time she was giving him instructions. I watched for a moment. They were like 2 girlfriends at a sleepover doing each other's hair, gossiping. Then I had an idea. Before either had a chance to react I walked into the room. What are you kids doing, Samantha? I asked quietly ere we were. I was showing Jonathan how to tie back his hair so you would not have to do it all the time, responded Samantha. That's sweet of you, dear. I hope Jonathan appreciates it. Oh, I do, Mom. Samantha has been real nice to me, he responded somewhat tentatively, but obviously relieved at my positive attitude. My girlfriends and I used to sleep over at each other's house, do each other's hair and makeup, talk about boys, gossip, etc. It was great fun, I added. Sounds like my girls' gossip parties, Mom, said Samantha. I smiled then continued, I have an idea, why don't we have our very own sleepover here? We can all put on our nighties and spend the evening playing music, talking, doing each other's hair. What do you think, guys? I asked. Oh, that would be great, Mom. What do you think, Jonathan? Exclaimed Samantha excitedly. Oh, I don't Don't be a spoilt sport, Jonathan, added Samantha. I thought after being cooped up all day in bed you would enjoy a bit of fun. Especially as you seem so much better. Yes, come on darling, it will be a bit of fun, I added in my best nice mummy tone. Okay then, relented Jonathan. Good, I said, and I have another idea. Why don't we all dress up in matching nighties and hairstyles? Oh yes, said Samantha. Oh no, said Jonathan, but it was too late for him to back out now. Chapter 5, Girls' Night in Mum. You can't be serious, exclaimed Jonathan. Only girls wear nighties and I'm not a girl. Only girls wear fairy costumes, but you had one on yesterday, I responded as sweetly as I could. Besides, I already told you that lots of boys play dress up as girls, and it is only Samantha and I here, no one else will know. It's just a bit of fun, I added encouragingly. But why? He started to speak when Samantha jumped in. Oh, come on, little brother. Mom is right. It's just dress up and a bit of fun. Please, Jonathan. We had a great time yesterday and you really seem to enjoy yourself. Tonight we can dress up and pretend, and this time Mom can also join in. He looked from Samantha to me and back again. Please, we said in unison. Oh, okay, he said quietly. Great, we both replied, and before he could utter another word I was heading for Samantha's room and her nighties draw. Samantha followed in hot pursuit. What will we wear, Mom? I thought we would all try and wear similar style, but maybe different colors. Short or long, Mum? Let's go long. Even though the house is heated it is still a little cool. Maybe your spring nighties? What colors? Well, you have the 3 long soft cotton nighties with short sleeves, the pale yellow with the white flowers on the bodice, the soft pink with the embroidery around the sleeves collar and hem, or the white with the pink satin ribbon through the bodice and bows on sleeves. Jonathan would look really cute in the pale yellow and I could wear the white. Oh yes, the pale yellow would suit him, I agreed. The hem also has that scallop work which I just find adorable. Also don't forget the matching panties, the pale yellow with white flowers for Jonathan and the white with red hearts for you. I added. Mum, you could wear your pale blue silk with the brunch coat. You look great in that and it shows off you figure so well. Oh, you are sweet, darling, I smiled in response. Okay, then it sounds like it is decided. You get the nighties for Jonathan and yourself while I get changed into mine. Okay, Mom, said Samantha, as I left for my room. I went and got changed. I must admit the blue satin did suit me, and 10 minutes later I was sitting in front of the mirror wondering what to do with my hair. As a little girl and teenager, sleepovers or slumber parties had involved a bunch of girls doing each other's hair in whatever style took our fancy, so initially I needed to keep the style simple for the girls and myself. Yes, tonight Jonathan was one of the girls and I wanted to make the best of it. I brushed my hair out and back. Like Jonathan it was thick and golden, but where Jonathan's only reached to just above his shoulder when brushed out, mine flowed down over my shoulders and, like Jonathan, had a slight wave through it that gave it extra bounce and shape. Once I finished brushing I took a single blue 1-inch satin ribbon and tied the hair back with a simple bow at the top. One final brush and I was finished. I then made my way to Samantha's room to see what the girls were up to. They had both changed, and what a pretty picture they made. Samantha was right. The pale yellow certainly suited Jonathan. He was sitting rather quietly on Samantha's bed while she was brushing his hair, and doing her best to make light conversation. Okay girls, I said, let's finish doing your hair. Mom, don't say that. I'm not a girl, protested Jonathan. You are tonight, dear. Remember, this is like dressing up and pretend. Sometimes you dress up and pretend to be a pirate, referring to the costume Samantha had on the other day, or a superhero or a cowboy, or fairy, I thought to myself. Tonight you are pretending to be a girl at a sleepover, so just for tonight you can pretend. Oh come on Jonathan, enthused Samantha, we can be like sisters or best girlfriends. For the second time that night we got a somewhat reluctant okay from Jonathan. It was just pretend, I reassured myself, yet why was I so keen to dress him up as a girl? Despite my reassurances to Jonathan, I wondered if it was really normal to dress an 8-year-old boy in a girl's nightie with ribbon in his hair, and there was what I had seen in the bathroom, and the fairy costume and... Stop. I pushed the thought from my mind. This was just a bit of fun. Nothing more. Okay girls, I said again, let's finish doing your hair. Come on Jonathan, you first. Jonathan came and sat at Samantha's vanity. I brushed his hair back and used a heating wand to give the hair more body. I then finished the style off with an upward sweeping curl around the collar. Once completed, a pale yellow satin ribbon was used to tie the hair back with a simple bow at the top, just like my own. A couple of hair slides with tiny crystal and yellow flowers to hold the ribbon in place and a light brush to smooth the hair in. Oh mommy, that looks adorable, squealed Samantha. Oh Jonathan, you look gorgeous. He did look gorgeous, adorable, cute, pretty, and all those other words we use to describe little girls. He looked like an 8-year-old version of Olivia Newton-John Sandy in the slumber party scene in Greece. Same beautiful face, same pretty pale yellow nightie, same golden hair held back by ribbon. As I soaked in the picture, my thoughts were interrupted by me next as Samantha made for the stool in front of her vanity unit. Jonathan said nothing. He sat there looking at himself in the mirror. Samantha broke his trance. Come on Jonathan, move, it's my turn. He turned and saw me staring at him. I smiled. Thanks Mom, he said. That's okay darling, you don't have to thank me, it was fun. Come let's fix Samantha's hair. The atmosphere quickly changed as Samantha chatted non-stop about this and that, and in no time I had styled her somewhat longer hair into the same overall style as Jonathan had. This time with a pink satin ribbon held in place by hair clips with crystal and pink flowers. All the time Jonathan sat there looking at himself, turning his head slightly one way then the other, then gently shaking his head as he watched the curls bob up and down. I think he was staring to enjoy himself. Next minute Samantha jumped up and gave Jonathan a hug. Come on sis, let's put some music on, enthused Samantha. The two girls scrambled over to Samantha's CD player and started thumbing through cassettes. I stopped to take in the picture, and then thought, I'm not going to miss this. I quickly went to my bedroom, found what I was looking for, and came back to the sight of the two girls shaking their heads to the music and dancing around the bedroom holding hands. Smile girls. They instinctively turned and flash, I had the photo. Mom, exclaimed Jonathan, no pictures. I don't want anyone else to see me like this. No one will darling, I reassured him. You both look so cute that I wanted to catch the moment on film. Are you sure no one else will see them? Quizzed Jonathan. Darling, these are just for you, me and Samantha. He just nodded. Samantha quickly jumped in. Come on Jonathan, let's show Mom how well we dance together. Okay sis, mimicked Jonathan. Next minute they were up and dancing. I watched, smiling encouragement, laughing, clapping and snapping as they twisted, hopped, waltzed, apologies to the purists, jumped, swayed, shook, and generally moved their way from one end of the bedroom to the other. As they did, Jonathan appeared to really relax and enjoy himself. With Samantha around, it is hard not to. She has that way of engaging others in whatever she is doing, and was particularly good at engaging Jonathan. After the third song the girls collapsed laughing and giggling onto the bed. Okay, makeup time. I looked at Jonathan, but this time there was no protest or hesitation. Taking his cue from Samantha, he just smiled and diligently followed Samantha and I to my room and the waiting vanity. First this time, said Samantha. Okay sweetheart, I responded with a smile, even though I was just a little disappointed that I was going to have to wait a little longer to give Jonathan his first makeup experience. Samantha waited patiently while I applied a little eyeshadow and a subtle touch of highlighter to her cheeks. I completed the look with some red lipstick, not too bright but just enough to add a dash of daring to her already cheeky nature. I then handed her a bottle of red nail polish. You start dear, while I get Jonathan ready. For Jonathan I chose a very subtle brownish shadow, which would complement his golden hair and fair complexion. I worked to emphasize his smooth elfin features, adding just enough color to the cheeks to provide a healthy glow. On his lips I applied a very pale yellow-brown lipstick. Then stood back to admire my handiwork. He looked adorable. Okay, sweetheart, now for the nail polish. I chose gold, carefully placing cotton wool between his toes. I applied a coat to all 10 toes, then started on his fingernails. Once finished, I helped Samantha finish off applying her nail polish. Next, more pictures. With very little encouragement, the girls posed and pouted while I happily snapped away with my camera. Next minute, Samantha was into my closet, emerging with a couple of feather bowers. Come on, Jonathan, try one of these. Jonathan eagerly grabbed one and wrapped it around his neck, letting the rest fall and drape over his arms. How about a fashion parade? I quickly added, recalling the scene in the bathroom. Okay, Mom, said Samantha, but I need shoes. Almost immediately, they were both back in my closet, hunting through my not insubstantial collection of shoes. Samantha emerged triumphant with a pair of red dress shoes, which had a 1.5-inch heel and a silver buckle. Jonathan chose, quite tastefully I noted, a pair of white dress shoes that had a subtle flower pattern inlay and gold trim. Jonathan was first this time. He proceeded to parade, somewhat awkwardly at first, as he negotiated the new experience of the heels and the fact that the shoes were a number of sizes too big. As he progressed, he became more confident, wiggling his bottom, pouting his lips, swinging his hips and winking at Samantha and I, who shrieked with laughter at his antics. Samantha followed with a not too dissimilar display, and finally we all collapsed on my bed in one big huddle. Food, shouted Samantha, and both the girls, leaving their shoes, made a dash for the stairs and the kitchen below. I followed, at a somewhat slower pace, thinking about how much fun this was and how adorable both of them looked. The rest of the night followed the pattern of most sleepovers: food, more fashion, and of course doing each other's hair. Samantha was quite proficient as she braided Jonathan's and my hair in a variety of braids, including mine in a gorgeous French braid. Jonathan stuck to trying more traditional styles: ponytails, pigtails, and one hilarious attempt at plaits. He was, however, by the end of the evening getting quite good, and managed to do his own hair in 2 cute little pigtails secured with elastic and finished off with 2 yellow ribbons, had to at least match what he was wearing. Adorable. I got the opportunity to put his hair up high on the top of his head, not quite long enough, but it did suit him, especially when I added one of Samantha's tiaras. Oh, Jonathan, you look just like a princess, squealed Samantha in delight. I had no doubt what their next dress-up session would involve. Around 10:30 p.m. the girls were starting to get tired, so I suggested, amid a flood of protests, bed. Come, darlings, Samantha, you have school tomorrow, and Jonathan, although better, has been sick. I followed Samantha to her room and tucked her in. That was fun, Mom, and Jonathan makes such a great little sister. He looked really pretty and should have been born girl. I smiled at that. Yes, he was very pretty and I think really enjoyed himself tonight. But darling, this was only pretend. Jonathan is a boy. Tomorrow he is back in pants and t-shirts. You must promise not to tease him about this or tell anyone else about tonight. People can sometimes get a little funny about things they don't understand. Hey, I was a little confused myself. Promise, Samantha. Promise, Mum, but he did look really cute, she added, trying, as always, to get the last word. Yes, he did, dear. Yes, he did, and you never know, he may just want play dress up again sometime. Now go to sleep. Good night, Mum. Good night, Samantha. I hurried to Jonathan's room. I really wanted to talk to him about tonight, but as I approached his bedroom door, not a sound. When I looked in, he was asleep. He looked beautiful, his golden hair framed his face, once again tied back with the yellow bow. He still had the makeup and Samantha's nightie on, and the whole effect was completed by a look of tranquility on his face. My little angel. My princess. My little girl. Chapter 6, Sports Girl. The next morning I woke up feeling both exhilarated and a little guilty about the previous night. Had I done the right thing? Had I been too insistent? How would Jonathan be feeling in the cold light of day? My concerns were, however, at least from Jonathan's perspective, unfounded. Morning, Mum, he chirped, when I somewhat cautiously peered into his room. He was sitting up in bed, still in the nighties with his hair secured back by the ribbon, reading a comic. That was so much fun last night. I really had a great time, he continued. I did too, sweetheart, I responded as I gave him a big mummy hug. I think I will keep you in bed for one more day, just in case. I added, and you can go back to school tomorrow. In the meantime, why don't you rest and I will get you some breakfast. What would you like? Just fruit and toast, Mum. A girl's got to watch her figure. He mimicked me perfectly. I must have looked somewhat surprised at that comment because he then added, Mum, I am only joking. Like you said, last night was just pretend. Today it's back to normal. I smiled in agreement and left the room. Stopped on the way down to wake Samantha, who just grunted and went to the kitchen to make breakfast. About 30 minutes later, Samantha emerged in school uniform. She sat at the table and proceeded to finish putting her hair in a ponytail secured with the now notorious blue scrunchie. Great night, Mum. We must do it again soon. Yes, it was fun. Now what do you want to eat? I added, not wanting to get into another conversation about Jonathan. Samantha, however, did not mention it again, preferring to talk about the wedding and her netball semifinal on Saturday. I half listened, nodding and responding with the occasional yes or really, darling. About 45 minutes later, she was picked up from school as I settled down to a day of housework and looking after Jonathan. Later that morning, Jonathan changed out of the nightie, had a quick shower and was into his pajamas. I again blow-dried his hair and tied it back in up high in a ponytail, yellow scrunch this time, securing the stray bits of hair with 2 white hair clips on the side and 4 yellow ones securing the scrunchie. Jonathan said nothing the whole time, but at the end added, why don't I try and do my hair next time? After all, it's not fair you have to do it all the time. I like doing it, sweetheart, I responded quickly. Your hair is so much like mine that it reminds me of when I was a little girl, although my hair was much long, almost to my waist, but if you would prefer to do it, go ahead. I said in my slightly wounded mummy voice. No, that's okay. I like you doing it too. The rest of the day and evening passed much as usual. The following day started wet and cold, and I began to worry that weather would be okay for the wedding on Sunday. Jonathan went to school, minus the ponytail. Samantha had netball practice that night. I wondered at the wisdom of it given the weather, but the rain had stopped, and with the semis only 2 days away, the coach and girls were keen to get some practice. I spent the day helping Catherine and getting some shopping done, including a few hair accessories for Jonathan. I bought him some packets of hair clips, various colors, some assorted scrunches, yellow, green, pink with white trim and a white one with light blue trim. Then a couple of hairbands, one light blue and one red with white flowers, 2 barrettes, one tortoise shell, one white with pink roses, very cute, 2 hair claws and some assorted elastic. Okay, I went overboard, but we both seemed to enjoy the opportunity to pamper his hair, so why not? The more feminine styles and accessories we could keep for home, but if we decided to keep his hair long, he would need to start tying it back for school and play. I also bought some brushes and hair combs. Jonathan was initially a little hesitant, so I held back some of the more feminine accessories and reassured him that it was mainly for around home. Besides, sweetheart, you said you enjoyed me doing your hair, so I just thought you would like them. It's okay, Mom, just don't tell anybody. Okay? Okay, sweetheart. I also got the photos back from the other night, but given Jonathan's response to the hair accessories, I decided to hold back showing them to the children until the time was right. I also bought a photo album to put them in. Pale yellow with white flower and leaf trim. This will be my special album, I thought to myself, just for those special occasions when the 3 girls got together. It was then that I realized I was hoping, no planning, for more all-girl occasions. Again, I reassured myself that it was okay, that it really brought us closer together, that Jonathan seemed to enjoy it. Who was I kidding? I enjoyed it. I liked seeing him dressed up as a little girl and I wanted him to do it again. At the same time, I did not want to push him too hard, so I decided to just take the opportunities as they arose, and arise they would. Friday was the last day of current school term. I picked the children up after school and we went to Hamburger Heaven for an end-of-school treat. Samantha was really excited about her final but told me that 2 of her teammates were away sick with the flu. It's a real shame, Mum. Allison was one of our best players and Jennifer was a really good defender. I just hope no one else gets sick. Me too, darling, I said. Me also, said Jonathan. You guys are the best and would be a shame if you lost just because some of you were sick. He was sweet. That night when we got home I let the children stay up and play some music. When I came up to wish them good night, Samantha had Jonathan's hair in the cutest little plaits tied with pink ribbons. Hi Mum, they both chirped. Jonathan did not seem the least bit embarrassed and I decided not to make any comment that might put him off. Come on, time for bed. Big day with the netball tomorrow. So off they went to bed, plaits and all. The next morning Samantha woke early, very early. It was 6 o'clock a.m. but her game was not till 10 o'clock a.m. She was excited and nervous all at the same time. Thankfully the weather had fined and the forecast was for a sunny day, although there was a particularly strong wind blowing. To keep Samantha's mind of the game I sent her outside to practice with Jonathan. Jonathan often played netball with Samantha in the backyard and was actually quite good for his age. They played for about an hour but by 8:45 Samantha could hold back no longer. Let's go Mom! As we were about to walk out the door when the phone rang. It was Samantha's coach. It was bad news. Another girl has come down with the flu. She is running a high temperature and will be unable to play. The problem was unless they could find at least one replacement the team would have to forfeit. Samantha was devastated and started to cry. There, sweetheart, it can't be helped. There will be other games. I tried to comfort her but she was very upset. She had worked so hard, the whole team had worked so hard and now this. Suddenly Samantha brightened. Mom. There is a way, Jonathan can play? What? Said Jonathan. Oh come on Jonathan. You can do it. You have played with me lots of time and are really good. You have watched me play and sort of know the rules. Please Jonathan. For me. Samantha looked long and hard at Jonathan. No more playing this time. She was serious and Jonathan knew it. He looked at me. This is up to you sweetheart, but Samantha really wants this and I think it would be really sweet if you helped her out. I'll do it, said Jonathan, with just a touch of bravado. Well done sweetheart, I said. Oh thank you Jonathan, squealed Samantha. Okay, I said, we had better get you changed. I'll put on my school sports gear, said Jonathan. It's basically the same colors as Samantha's netball uniform. Samantha's uniform was made up of the same colors as her school uniform, dark blue, maroon, and white. The pleated skirt was maroon, the top was dark blue with maroon and white trim and a maroon emblem over the left breast. The long socks were also dark blue with white and maroon stripes around the top. If their hair was long or needed to be tied back, most of the girls used white and maroon ribbons. Samantha had her hair in a ponytail with white and maroon hair clips on the side and securing the ponytail in place. Darling, you can't wear your school sports gear. You will have to wear a proper uniform. This is a girls' netball team. They won't let boys play so you will have to go as a girl. I can't do that. People will laugh at me. They will know I am a boy. No they won't sweetheart, believe me, by the time we have dressed you in Samantha's spare uniform and done your hair no one will know you are a boy. You will look like any other 8-year-old girl netball player. We can also tell the other players on the team that you are Samantha's younger cousin visiting from Klamath Falls for the holiday. They will never know, as long as you don't tell them. But Mum, cried Jonathan. No buts, this is very sweet of you, so don't spoil it, I added. What will we call him Mum? We can't introduce him as Jonathan, said Samantha. Don't know, we need to choose a girl's name. How about Jennifer, prompted Samantha, that way he has the same name as one of the sick girls from the team and both Jennifer and Jonathan start with J. Great idea sweetheart, I responded. What do you think Jonathan? I don't like it. It is one thing to dress up and pretend at home but another thing to dress up in front of other people. But they won't know sweetheart. You make a very pretty girl and Samantha and I won't say anything. Will we Samantha? I looked at her very directly. Oh no Mum. Please Jonathan. Do it for me. Please. He was, for the second time this week trapped, and he knew it. Come on Jonathan upstairs and get changed. If you are going to help your sister, you have to get changed now or we will be late. Jonathan looked at Samantha. As long as no one knows it is me. They won't, sweetheart. I promise, I responded, just starting to get a little impatient with him. All right, let's go, he said finally. Samantha and Jonathan made their way upstairs while I rang the coach to let him know they had a replacement girl. The coach was delighted, and by the time I got upstairs, Jonathan was changed and Samantha was just finishing his hair. She had opted for 2 pigtails tied off with white and maroon ribbon. He also had 2 white and 2 maroon hair clips securing the hair on the side. He looked adorable and every inch a cute little 8-year-old girl netball player. Oh great, you have almost finished. I'll warm up the car while you finish doing Jenny's hair, and you had both better put on your tracksuits. Samantha just smiled. I smiled back. Jonathan just sat there looking at himself in the mirror. 5 minutes later. We were in the car and off to the semifinal. All the way there Samantha tried to explain the rules. Jonathan, Jennifer, listened. Samantha also gave him some lessons on the finer points of girlhood. Keep your legs together, don't be too rough, be a little shy at first, etc. 30 minutes later we were there. I can't do this, I think I am going to be sick, wailed Jonathan. At this point I started to get angry. Stop being silly, I said, this is for Samantha, not you. You look like any other little girl. No one will know. You are Samantha's cousin Jennifer, or Jenny for short. Now get out there and join the team. Okay, Mom, he said a little sheepishly. Thank you, sweetheart, now go you two, the game will be starting soon. I gave them both an encouraging smile. Good luck, girls. The girls got out of the car and went to join the team. Jonathan, or should I say Jennifer, was introduced to the other team members and assigned the sick Jennifer's position in defense. The other girls smiled greetings and were just as grateful as Samantha for what Jennifer was doing. The game was close. Luckily for the team, or the Pagewood Ponytails as they were known, the opposing team also had members out with the flu, and in the end they won 14-12. The girls were ecstatic. They were in the final. Jonathan played pretty well and I was proud of them both. He looked so cute in his netball uniform. Every time he jumped for the ball his skirt would fly up, revealing the maroon pair of sport panties Samantha had got him to wear. He looked so cute in pigtails, and I made a mental note to do his hair like that more often. I had also remembered to bring my camera, so I was able to take more pictures of my little girl for a special album. Chapter 7, Opportunity Knocks. Unfortunately for me, it was all over too quickly. The other girls wanted to invite Jenny and Samantha back to a pizza celebration at one of the girls' houses, but Jenny wasn't too keen and, somewhat surprisingly, Samantha elected to go home as well. Are you okay, darling? I asked with some concern. I'll be fine, Mom. Just a little tired, probably from the game and general excitement. Besides, I am sure you will have things to do for tomorrow's wedding, responded Samantha. As long as you are all right, yes, I do have quite a bit to do. So come on, girls, into the car and let's go home. My treat on the pizzas. Half an hour later we were home. I left the children playing. Jonathan changed out of the sports uniform and into a white t-shirt and a light blue pair of shorts. He did not ask me to redo his hair and I didn't offer. He looked adorable in the pigtails and that was fine by me. I left the children about an hour later and made my way to Catherine's. Don't get up too much mischief, I yelled as I left the house, secretly hoping that once again Samantha would persuade her brother into dresses. I wondered what Samantha would have him in this time. Her light blue party dress with the white sash, layers of pettice and 2 high pigtails with white ribbons, her school uniform with the dark blue pleated skirt, white blouse, knee socks and ponytail, or her pink ballet tutu with beading on the bodice, and matching tights. Then with his hair gathered up, neatly pinned to the top of his head and secured with a pink scrunch or ribbon and some cute rosebud hair slides, or... I sighed. Whatever it was would also be fine by me. I started to think, maybe I should invest in some of Jonathan's own clothes, well at least some panties, a nightie or two, maybe even some baby dolls, a skirt or two, no 3, a couple of dresses, some little girl costumes, maybe a princess. He would look adorable as a princess. No wait, what about, my mind raced on. All I could see was my beautiful little girl. All of a sudden I was there and Catherine was at the door. Good to see the weather improving, she commented as I entered the house. Oh yes. Very good. I believe it is forecast warm and dry tomorrow. And soon I too was lost in the flowers, bridesmaid dresses, seating etc. Before I knew it, it was 6:30 p.m. I rang the children and somewhat surprisingly Jonathan answered. What have you guys been up to? I asked hopefully. Nothing much, responded Jonathan. Samantha went to bed, said she was feeling tired. So I have just been watching TV and stuff. Oh, I responded, trying to mask my disappointment. Well, I will be home in the next half hour, so see you then. Okay, Mum. Click. I'd better go, I said to Catherine. Duty calls. We'll see you at the hairdresser's around 8 o'clock a.m. The wedding was at 1 o'clock p.m. 3 hours at the hairdresser's, including makeup, and 2 hours to get bride, bridesmaids, matron of honor, and flower girls ready. So it will be hair up then. I think that is great, looks more stylish till tomorrow. We hugged and kissed each other on the cheek, then it was back to the house. As soon as I got to the house I went to check on Samantha. Hi Mum, she said weakly, I don't feel well. Probably all the excitement. Why don't you rest while I get you some food? Thanks Mum, but I don't feel hungry. Okay sweetheart, just sleep and I am sure you will feel better in the morning. But she didn't. Her temperature was running at just over 100. She had this dreaded flu and there was no chance she would be bridesmaid. She would be so upset, so would Catherine. She had planned this wedding to the T. The loss of Samantha would, in Catherine's eyes, throw out the whole balance of the wedding party. Samantha also knew she was too ill to be the bridesmaid. I am so sorry sweetheart, I know how disappointed you are. Jonathan. What's that sweetheart? Jonathan can take my place, she said quietly. He's about my size and we can say he is my cousin Jenny from Common Falls, just like we did with netball. As long as he keeps his legs together he will be fine. She smiled weakly. Hardly anyone at the wedding has seen him for a while and we can always say that both of us have the flu. I would really hate to disappoint Aunt Catherine. What do you think, Mum? What did I think? I was already picturing him in the flower girl dress with his hair up in curls and pearls around his neck. But would we get away with it? It was one thing to fool a bunch of schoolgirls. But a whole group of wedding guests, some who knew I had a daughter and a son, some who had actually met Jonathan, and what about Catherine? I would at least have to tell her. Would she agree? How would she react? And Jonathan, I would not force him. He would have to agree. I will ask him, I said hopefully. Jonathan. I called down the hallway. Can you please come to your sister's room? We have something to ask you. What is it, Mum? How's Samantha? I explained the situation to him. He was remarkably low-key in his response, almost as if he expected it. I looked at Samantha. Had she already talked to him about it? What if someone recognizes me? He asked. They won't recognize you, sweetheart. We will explain away the difference as a family resemblance. All you have to do is say everyone says that, and smile at the compliments. I'm not sure, he hesitated, as if rethinking his position. Sweetheart, I know it is a lot to ask, but think of Aunt Catherine. She only gets married once and I know this would make her very happy, as it would me. I thought to myself, I understand your reluctance, but I will also be in the wedding party as matron of honor so I can also look after you. He thought for a moment then nodded. Okay, I will do it for Aunt Catherine. Thank you, sweetheart, I responded warmly. I could hardly wait to see what he looked like. Thanks, sis, smiled Samantha rather weakly. Jonathan just nodded. I had better call Mrs. Murphy to come babysit and just let Catherine know about Samantha's replacement. As I dialed Catherine, I wondered what she would say. Kath, is that you? How are you feeling this morning? A little nervous, but otherwise fine. Hadn't you and Samantha be heading for the hairdressers? She added, with just a touch of fluster in her voice. That's what I rang about. Samantha is very sick and won't be able to make the wedding so. Oh no, poor thing. I know she was so looking forward to it. We will have to rearrange the bridal party and I will call the reception so they... Hold on, Kath. I have a possible solution and want to see what you thought. Jonathan can take her place. Jonathan? But I don't want a page boy, and besides we don't have an outfit for him. Not as a page boy, as a flower girl. A flower girl? Are you sure? He won't agree to that. He already has and is happy to help out. Let's just say that over the last week Jonathan has been getting in touch with his feminine side, and believe me, he will make a very beautiful flower girl. Well, it sure is different, but why not? We did not always play by the rules. Kath, just one thing, he will be Jennifer, his cousin from Common Falls, striking family resemblance. Okay, by me he is your son, or should I say daughter. Niece will do. See you at the hairdresser's in about an hour. And that was it. Jonathan was now officially in the wedding party, but as my niece, not my son. Chapter 8, Crowning Glory. I quickly rang Mrs. Murphy and explained Samantha's situation, omitting any mention of Jonathan's new role. Okay, sweetheart, I said to Jonathan, we need to get you ready for the hairdresser. If you are going to be my niece for the day, a girl's got to start right. First, what to wear? Something simple. You will need to change into your flower girl dress later, but suitable for a potential flower girl. The day was surprisingly warm, so I chose Samantha's white mini skirt and pink sleeveless shirt with the Peter Pan collar. Pink panties to match and white shoes. A touch of pink lipstick and matching eyeshadow. Next, my favorite part, his hair. This time simple, I brushed it back in a ponytail and secure it with a pink scrunch. White hair slides kept the loose hairs at bay. If only he had a fringe? Oh well, he still looked gorgeous. Next it was my turn. I hurried to my room to change, and 30 minutes later we were ready to go. Come on, sweetheart, let's go or we will be late for the hairdressers. Okay, Mom. Samantha was just filling me in on what I had to do. Next minute, he came bounding down the stairs, his ponytail bouncing behind him. He smiled. Hardly ladylike, but you look beautiful, darling. Thanks, Mum. We had better hurry, I added, as we bid Samantha farewell and departed to the sounds of Good Luck and Break a Leg. 15 minutes later we were at the hairdresser. Catherine was there to meet us. You are right, Angela. He looks adorable. If I didn't know it was Jonathan, I would think he was a very pretty 8-year-old girl. He will make a beautiful flower girl. I will just introduce Jennifer to the other girls in the bridal party. The other girls in the bridal party consisted of Mary and Julie, the 2 bridesmaids, and Catherine's husband-to-be's niece Elizabeth, who was the same age as Jonathan. Catherine explained the situation about Samantha and how Jennifer had agreed to step in. Everyone was very grateful and commented what a pretty flower girl she would make. Jonathan said very little, appearing somewhat overwhelmed and excited at the same time. Soon the hairdresser appeared. So you have decided on hair up, wise choice, so much more stylish. So come on ladies, let's get started. I went with Jonathan to make sure he was settled before I got my hair done. Your niece has such beautiful hair and so much like your own. Before we put the hair up, may I do some styling? I think it will make the final presentation so much more effective. I thought for the moment, why not? We could always get it cut again before he goes back to school. Okay, whatever you think is best. The hairdresser set to work washing Jonathan's hair while I retired to get my own crowning glory. 1 hour later we were finished. Next came the nails and makeup. All this time Jonathan was also getting the full treatment. I was itching to find out what he looked like, and could hardly wait till all was revealed. Eventually we were finished. My hair was swept back high on my head with a carefully manicured set O curls adorning the crown. Through the hair was woven white satin ribbon, and the makeup was a subtle mix of shades of pink with pale pink lipstick. I was very pleased with the results, but not as pleased as I was when I saw Jonathan. He looked absolutely divine. His golden hair, like mine, was swept back high on his head with a collection of carefully fashioned curls. This had been enhanced with a matching hairpiece that gave the style more body and mass. Like mine, a white satin ribbon was also woven through the curls. On the side, the hairdresser had complemented the design with 2 little girl hair ornaments adorned pearls. And yes, she had given him a fringe, which seemed to tickle his forehead, and 2 strands of hair fell down past his ears, framing his face and finishing the style to perfection. His makeup was similar to mine, with a touch of sparkle around the cheeks and eyes. He was angelic. I could hardly wait to see the dress on him. It was his reaction, however, that took me by surprise the most. "Oh, Auntie, I love it," he squealed like a little girl. I smiled at that. Then Catherine appeared. "Oh, Angela, doesn't she look adorable? 2 beautiful daughters, you lucky thing," she whispered conspiratorially to me. Chapter 9, Princess Jonathan. 5 minutes later, we were in the cars and heading for Samantha's house. When we arrived, the house was a flurry of girly activity. The air scented with perfume, dresses of pale pink and white draped and waiting around the house, women adjusting makeup, mothers of the ride fussing with corsages, flowers everywhere, and one very camp cameraman recording the whole event for prosperity. I loved it. Weddings are one of the truly great girl experiences, one that most men, or boys, will never understand. As we swept into the room, I glanced at Jonathan. He seemed to be taking in every girly detail, every feminine delight. I turned to Jonathan and Elizabeth. "Come girls, we had better get ready and then check on Catherine." They both followed me to the spare bedroom where the flower girl dresses were hanging expectantly across the wardrobe. The dresses were pale pink crapback satin. They had short sleeves with embroidery around the cuffs. The bodice was studded with tiny pearls and detailed with an imprinted pattern designed to emphasize the feminine nature of the outfit. The skirt was almost full length, finishing just above the ankle, fanning out from a gathered waist to be supported by 2 white petticoats that had a white silk slip, white silk pantie with tiny pink flowers and matching stockings and garter belt. At the waist there was a white satin ribbon tied with a large bow at the back. The shoes were white/pink with beading around the toe and instep. For the flower girls, the heel was a modest inch. The whole ensemble was ultra-feminine, and from the looks on the girls' faces they could hardly wait to get dressed. I looked at Jonathan. He smiled expectantly. "Okay, Jennifer, you first." Jonathan quickly disrobed. I had taken the precaution of securing his boyhood, what little there was of it, between his legs. While I asked Elizabeth to get the petticoats, I quickly helped Jonathan into a pair of panties and the slip. Next came the stockings, secured by the white garter belt. Next the petticoats. "Hands up, darling," prompted. He lifted his hands and let the petty settle gracefully on his hips. He sighed quietly to himself as I tightened the ties at the waist. "Glad to see you enjoying yourself," I whispered. He just smiled and went an adorable shade of red. "Okay. Here comes number 2. The second, detailed at the hem with pale pink satin ribbon, settled like the first, and this time Jonathan let his hands get lost in the folds of the material. A look of faraway contentment appeared on his face. "Jennifer, they look adorable," squealed Elizabeth. "How do they feel?" "Wonderful. Just wonderful," responded Jonathan. "Please moo, Auntie, can I put the dress on now?" "Certainly, sweetheart," I responded, smiling at his obvious enthusiasm. I carefully lifted the dress from its hanger, undid the satin buttons to the waist and gently lowered the dress over his head, being careful not to mess the hair. Without prompting, Jonathan lifted his arms so the dress could pass easily over his torso. Like the pettice, it settled gently on his hips. He placed his arms in the sleeves and I did up the buttons at the back. Then Elizabeth and I played with the material of the skirt and bowed till it sat evenly over the pettice. "Let's finish this, sweetheart. Elizabeth, can you please steady Jennifer while I help her on with the shoes?" Elizabeth supported Jonathan's arm while I placed the shoes on his waiting feet. Once on, he took a couple of steps to get used to the change in height and very soon was waltzing slowly around the bedroom with a bright smile on his face, while Elizabeth and I watched on. He looked gorgeous, like a princess, and like a princess in full regal splendor he took my breath away. "One final touch, darling, then we must get Elizabeth dressed." I reached for the pearl necklace and matching clip-on earrings on the dresser. Jonathan dutifully leaned forward while I secured the necklace and attached the earrings. I then went to my purse and produced a small silver bracelet with a heart locket attached. This was my grandmother's very special and lucky locket, so for luck and because I love you so much I want you to wear it during the wedding, I said, as I secured it around his wrist. "Oh, Mummy, it's beautiful," exclaimed Jonathan. I glanced at Elizabeth, but she appeared to have missed the mummy reference. "Not as beautiful as you, darling. I am so proud." Tears began to well up in his and my eyes. "Don't cry, sweetheart, you will ruin the makeup. I love you so much, Moo, Auntie." He quickly corrected himself this time, and proceeded to reach up and give me a big hug. "What about me?" protested Elizabeth, with a half smile on her face. "I want to get dressed too." "Come on, Jennifer," I responded, dragging myself from this moment with my daughter. "Let's get Elizabeth dressed and then see how Catherine is doing." An hour later we were all ready. With final touch-up to the makeup, stray hairs tamed, dresses preened, hugs and light kisses for good luck, we were in the car and on the way to the church. Chapter 10. A wedding to remember. Most of the rest of the day was a blur, a heavenly blur, but a blur nevertheless. Oh, how I wished Samantha was here to share in this. Jonathan was magnificent. He glowed. Smiling shyly at the guests, he carefully tossed rose petals of white and soft pink to herald the arrival of the bride. He took compliments with a modest thank you, chatted conspiratorially with Elizabeth, even pointing and giggling at the young teenage boys at the wedding. Was this flirting? He danced with the best man, groomsmen and other assorted guests, for which he received no less than a dozen kisses on the cheek or hand. He laughed, smiled, and on occasions took time out to squeeze my hand and give me the odd hug or 20. And of course I got the photographer to take lots of photos of me with my favorite niece. All of the women, and even some of the men, came up and told me what a beautiful niece I had, so sweet. So loving and affectionate, such a strong family resemblance, you must be very close. I acknowledged all and every comment, all the time drinking in the opportunity to share this experience with my very special daughter. Only one moment caused me a little concern. A close friend, Diana, commented how much my niece reminded her of Jonathan. I responded as casually as I could with a "everyone says that," but she was not so easily put off. "Where is Jonathan?" "At home sick. Both Jonathan and Samantha have this dreadful flu." "Oh, what bad luck," she added, "both unable to make the wedding. Lucky your niece was out-town." "I haven't met her before, but you seem very close," she added with a half-raised eyebrow and a somewhat curious expression. "We are," I said confidently, "but my sister and her family are not great travelers, so usually we travel to see them. Now Jennifer is older, I guess she will visit more often. Maybe Jonathan, the two girls and you could come over and visit while your niece is in town. I know Charlotte and Grace, her daughters, would love to see Samantha, and it has been about 6 months since Andrew, her son, has had a chance to play with Jonathan. I wonder if they will still have as much in common as they used to." For just a moment I froze. Had she guessed? But just as quickly I recovered. Yes, that would be nice. Give me a call. Better go check on the bride. Good to see you again, Diana." And I quickly departed for the bridal table. When I glanced in her direction 5 minutes later, she was carefully watching Jonathan, who was in competition with Elizabeth to see who, by spinning around as fast as they could make their dresses flare the highest. As I watched, they became a revolving mass of satin dresses, petticoats, and flaying arms. Jonathan spun so much that he fell over, pulling Elizabeth down on top of him. The two girls sat on the floor giggling so hard that they had trouble breathing. No use worrying about Diana's comments now, I thought. Could be nothing. I would deal with the invite when and if it arose, and I was soon once again lost in the celebration. Then the bride and groom were departing. As we waved goodbye to the happy couple, I turned to Jonathan. "Time to go home, darling." "Oh, Mom, I have had so much fun." And Elizabeth, he chattered girlishly, just like his sister I thought, and protested, 10 more minutes and it's only early." I gave in to his wishes for a while, but then reminded him that Samantha was at home waiting to hear all the wedding news and looking forward to seeing him in the flower girl dress. 30 minutes later we were in the back of a limousine and on our way home. Jonathan snuggled in close while I stroked his hair and told him what a wonderful flower girl he had been. He smiled and hugged me even more. Over the noise of the car and the city, I thought I heard a quiet thank you. When we arrived, I kept Jonathan in the car while I wished the babysitter good night. As soon as she left, Jonathan was out of the car bounding up to his sister's room. "I want to show Sam the dress and tell her about the wedding," he yelled. "Okay, sweetheart, but don't get her too excited. She has not been well, remember." 10 seconds later, shrieks erupted from Samantha's bedroom. So much for not too excited. As I approached the room, I could hear Samantha ask, "Give us a twirl. Show me the petticoats. How do they feel? You look fabulous." As I entered, Samantha smiled. "How are you feeling, honey?" I asked. "A lot better for seeing you too. Doesn't Jonathan look fabulous, Mom?" And so do you." "Thanks, sweetheart, and yes, he does. I love what they did with his hair." "Is that all yours, sis?" "No, the hairdresser cut it, then added a piece of hair. Oh, I wish it was mine." Jonathan began to rab it on, so I left the two of them to relive the wedding and his day of glory. Half an hour later I returned. "Come on, Jennifer, it is time for bed. It has been a long and exciting day. We are tired and Samantha is sick." "But, Mom." "No buts, let's go." "Night, Sam," said Jonathan, as he leant over and gave her a kiss on the cheek. "Night, Jennifer," she responded with a smile that Jonathan returned. I lead Jonathan to his room. "Do I have to get changed?" he asked. "Can I stay dressed just a little longer?" "Sorry, darling, but it's time for bed. Let me undress you and put on this robe while I hunt down some night attire." We gradually removed the layers of femininity till Jonathan stood draped in Samantha's night robe. "Okay, darling, let's brush out your hair and take the makeup off." I took Jonathan to my room and proceeded to reverse the work of the hairdresser. I removed the hairpiece and carefully brushed out his hair, managing to retain its girlish style, especially with the fringe. He still looked like, much to my delight, a little girl. When we finished, I sat on the bed and looked into his beautiful face. "It was fun today, wasn't it, sweetheart?" "Yes, Mom. It has been fun the last couple of weeks, hasn't it?" referring to his episodes of dressing up. Yes, I suppose so," he replied somewhat tentatively. "You seem to like dressing as a girl," I added, and watched carefully for his reaction to this rather blunt announcement. He said nothing for a moment, just dropped his head. Well, yes, sort of." "Oh, Mom," and he began to cry. "It's all right, darling," I crooned, "let it out. There is nothing wrong with feeling this way. You have to be who you are, and if wanting to dress as a girl is who you are, then that is fine by me. All I suggest is that you keep this just between the three of us, and Aunt Catherine," I thought to myself. "No one else needs to share this. Unfortunately, there are people who would not understand." He looked at me with big red eyes from crying and nodded in quiet understanding. At least I hoped he understood. "Sweetheart, you make a very pretty girl, and it would be a shame to keep her hidden from the world. I see the joy it brings you, and that is the most important thing. Also, I kind of like having another daughter around the house. Tell you what, why don't Samantha, you and I go shopping for some of your own clothes next weekend? 3 girls out to shop. It will be great fun. After today, I am sure you can see that you have no problems passing as a girl, and this would give Samantha and I an opportunity to initiate you into the great female pastime of shopping for clothes." "What do you say?" He looked at me and then started to cry. But this time they were tears of joy. "Oh, thank you, Mummy. That would be wonderful. Can I get my hair done again?" he added hopefully. "We will see. Now it is time you go dressed for bed." I took Jonathan back to his bedroom. On the bed were his pajamas, and next to them was Samantha's pink baby doll nightie. He looked up at me. No more reasons needed to keep being dressed as a girl. Now it was up to him. He turned and looked at me. "Thanks, Mummy, thanks for, I love you." Now it was my turn to cry. "I love you too, sweetheart. It is up to you. Whatever you choose, I will always love you." I turned and left him looking at the bed. No matter what choice, I would always love him, and at least in my heart and memory, there would always be those moments when he was my other daughter, my little girl.